Hello and welcome to another week of Wake Up Call. I am back, and again, I did not feel like shooting in my office. For whatever reason, the energy in there is very stagnant, and it's a beautiful space, and the energy in there is normally great, but I'm very sensitive to my surroundings, and I don't know how podcast hosts who have shows 4, 5, 6 days a week, 7 days a week, whatever, shoot in the same space and expect to be inspired by new information in that same space. For me, it's literally impossible. So at some point you'll get the consistency again, but sometimes you got to change it up, and that's what I've been feeling lately. So I'm doing that. Let's dive into some of your questions and comments from last week. I'll try to go through them as quickly as possible because I want to try to get to pretty much all of them. Benjamin, does the recent Reese report on the subject of the Mormons resonate with you? And is this one of the people you were referring to? I think you're talking about how I said this topic of the Mormon Zionist cult is catching on, and more people are talking about it, and how there's a pocket of people I trust who are talking about it and a pocket of people who I don't trust who are talking about it. And yeah, Greg Reese does amazing work, and he's the best at what he does. He's the best at getting the message across right away, straight to the point, no bullshit, short format, get right to it. Nobody does it better than him. So even though his report on it was missing the details, which I feel like that's something I do well, like I'm too long-winded. It's very hard for me to even do sketches that are 2 or 3 minutes long. That's why I haven't been doing them lately, because it's actually so time consuming for me to come up with a 2 or 3 minute sketch. Seems like it's easy, seems like it's quicker. But actually sometimes short format stuff is just as time consuming as long format. And Greg is the best at what he does with that. And I think that that's how you get your message out to people who wouldn't hear it otherwise, because everybody's attention spans are so damn short these days. But yeah, I'm long-winded and I'm detail-oriented. So for me, I would love to be good at what he does, but that's probably not my thing. Is he trustworthy? Yes, I think that he's very good at what he does. Jason, I saw Candace Owens saying that people who thought there was a possibility Charlie Kirk could be possibly alive were crazy. I think that is extremely obvious of her, that she is now trying to shut down a line of questioning. She admits that she has no proof of what happened, but yet she somehow knows that they did not fake his death or fake the actual shooting, maybe kidnap him or something. I mean, anything is possible, and we cannot say for certain anything. Just found this odd. She would say people were crazy for thinking this after she has gone on for about 2 years about anytime they call you crazy, you are right on the trail, and to keep following that trail, except in this case. Well, I've mentioned it before, and I do not trust Candace Owens at all, given that she is as well researched as she is, and she is a staunch Catholic, yet married to a Zionist, basically. None of it makes sense. People post pictures of her saying, oh, she was an ex-actress, but whatever. Actually, her background is very similar to mine. I think she was a fashion major and then got involved in acting and stuff. So it's like, well, I can't really judge her on that, because that would be pretty hypocritical of me. But as far as like consistency, because that's what I look for. Yeah, I mean, you know all about this Sabbatean cult, and you know all about the Zionist cult, yet you're married to a family of Zionists, things aren't matching up. You know what I mean? You have to give people the benefit of the doubt, but with Candace Owens, things just don't match up. You're against Zionism, yet you're married into this Zionist family. Her husband's father is a huge Zionist, and the Catholic Church is part of this whole New World Order agenda. Come on, hello, like this is pretty basic knowledge, and she's still adamantly a Catholic. I have huge questions around that, so we're going to be diving into a little bit of that, a little bit of the Catholic theme this episode, as well as the rabbit hole I've been down, and connect some dots. Tracy, thank you for making the effort to research this information. That takes more time than I have to commit. Good luck with your endeavors. Thank you, Tracy. Benjamin, I miss your show when it's not on, and sometimes we don't get the thanks or credit for doing the right thing, but that is not why we do it, so please don't stop. Very true. Because I mentioned last episode that it was the first time that I felt like I was the first to talk about something and got no credit for it, very little credit for it. David retweeted some of my stuff, thankfully, early on, so it's sort of there in the records, which I appreciate. But in some ways, I feel like it's a blessing in disguise when you don't get the credit that you deserve, because A, you attract your true audience and not the bullshit audience, and B, it just kind of keeps the drama out of everything. So I'm fine with that, to be honest, but it's just interesting when your ego goes, hey, I was the first one to say that, and I'm not getting credit about it, and taking that ego acknowledgement and looking at it in the face and being like, oh, hello, old friend ego. There you are again. And it's just interesting when that comes up, when you think that you've gone way beyond it, and then it comes up again, because you're only human. So I acknowledge that. That's what it is. Joanne, Utah peeps, going to the moon? Yeah, right. They mean it will be filmed in Utah. Just another black project to steal taxpayer dollars, in my opinion. Time will tell. What a fake planet. From fake moon landings to fake Project Bluebeam to fake false flags. Even the weather is questionable. Nailed it. Janet brought up how all of the moon landings were faked. Absolutely. I totally agree with that. I didn't go into that last episode because that's a whole other topic of conversation. But when I brought up the Artemis moon projects that are coming up and us going to the moon again, I didn't mean that I believe that we were going to the moon again. I'm saying that they believe that we're going to the moon again. And what is that Red Hot Chili Peppers song, Space May Be the Final Frontier, but it's made in a Hollywood basement.
Space may be the final frontier, but it's made in a Hollywood basement.
Yeah, I think that is the truth. And I remember it was like when I probably looked like a lunatic to outsiders, but during COVID, it was like conspiracy vomit for me on Facebook. And I said that I believed that Stanley Kubrick directed the moon landing, and all of these big producer directors that I know were like, that is a huge conspiracy theory. What are you talking about? And I was like, I gotta get the fuck out of this place. So yeah, I mean, you don't even have to, I haven't done an episode on the fake moon landing, because it's just so obvious to me that if you still believe that we went to the moon, that it really doesn't take much to see that we didn't. I mean, I remember thinking, oh my God, wait, Neil Armstrong wasn't the first person on the moon. It was the camera person. The camera is getting him off of the craft, bouncing, and then there's an American flag waving, just flapping in the wind. I mean, you don't even have to do a deep dive. None of it makes sense at all. So Janet, yes, I completely agree, but I didn't dive into that last episode because it was just like, I thought that was a given. So anytime I talk about us, I mean, truthfully, I don't believe anything when it comes to space other than that the planets do exist. I do believe that these planets that have an energetic effect on us on this planet, I do believe in all of that. And I've talked about how I don't know if the Earth is round or flat. I kind of believe it to be like a donut, toroidal field, or whatever you want to call it. So it's kind of flat and round at the same time. But yeah, anything with space is not to be trusted. And that was the whole point of what I was getting at with the last episode, is like, now all of this Utah Mormon stuff is coming out with the fake space stuff. So if I was unclear on any of that, I apologize. But yes, I agree. We never went to the moon, and we never will go to the moon. And the moon is not what we are told it is. And Jimster, also Brandon Fugel of Skinwalker Ranch and the Utina Basin, I started looking into both of those things lightly. I was familiar with Skinwalker Ranch, but I'm going to look into both of those a bit further and see if there's any dots I can connect to the work that I've been doing. Chris K, great episode. Kristen, glad to hear you're expanding. Are you changing or expanding the program format or including new subjects or guests? To be honest, the changes that I want to make are more promotional, just to get my work out there, and just get hopefully some more eyes on it. The only reason I feel called to expand my work right now is because I feel like I need to be making a career out of this, and I don't know how, and I'm trying to figure that out and do it in a way that's different than everybody else, something that where I can provide a product or service, most likely a service to people that is untapped. I'm trying to look for a space that is my talents are needed, instead of just going on a bunch of shows and getting exposure. I'm trying to get my information out there, but also fulfill a need for the audience who will benefit. And I'm trying to figure out what that is exactly. So that's what I'm working on. And also just just promotion of the show and just getting my work out there and changing some of the fun aspects of it, the intro and the music, and just rebranding it a little bit. But as far as the content goes and subjects and guests, I do whatever I'm inspired to do, whatever shows up. I'm intuitively called to talk about certain things, and that's how I do my research. It literally is like a spark within me that says, hey, you might want to look over here, and then I do it. So that's why some weeks you'll notice there's guests back to back to back to back, and then other weeks there's me just presenting the information over and over and over again. There's a reason for that. It's because I feel like it sounds stupid, but divinely inspired to talk about certain things. I am Christopher, thank you. So awesome to have you back, Kristen. Wow, what a wild ride we are on. I do not think you found a rabbit hole. I think you have found the rabbit kingdom. That piece of the Mormie corpse made me rage just hearing them talk so flippantly about bringing peace with their weapons of mass destruction and keeping their children safe at school, for fuck's sake. Where the fuck is Bush now? We found the real location of WMDs right there in Utah. Yes, we did. There should be troops on the ground this instant. Crazy stuff. Amazing research. Thanks again, Kristen. So good to have you back. Well, then, if the troops are on the ground, you're saying what you already know. That's the whole idea, is to get troops on the ground this instant. And that's why I think a lot of this blue beam stuff is going to happen in Utah, because they will get troops on the ground in an instant there. Shelly, thank you. Laura, I am so happy to see a new episode. Thank you for being here. Chet, thanks. Great show. Thank you for being here, Chet. The guy speaking on Rogan is definitely fishy. Yes. You're talking about Avi Loeb. Joseph, thank you for more and more information on this topic. So much propaganda was coming from the lips of the people in these videos. I imagine they're all well paid and are believing their own BS so they can sleep at night. I agree. Deborah, missed you. Welcome back. Missed you too, Deborah. Dina, I love your show and glad to understand an accent I can understand. Glad I'm understood. Sometimes my Philly accent comes out, especially when I'm worked up, but we all have an accent, I think, at the end of the day. Like, you have to be really, really, I mean, we all have accents, right? Lamb, Atlas, because I said how Atlas is something that is talked about over and over and over again, it seems like. The word is used over and over again, and that is a red flag to me when it comes to the occult. And Lamb said Atlas goes way back, at least to the Atlanteans, according to research presented in the Apocalypse of Yanavalkya. Plato's Timaeus and Christus Critias details the story of Atlantis. Atlas was first born of Poseidon's 5 sets of twins. He became king of what we now know as the Rikat structure, the Eye of Africa, of which some theorize was the capital city of Atlantis. This region lies south of the Atlas Mountains. Rose said the Pope was just gifted a white horse, because I was talking about the white horse prophecy. That's what this whole episode is going to be about. And I know I'm doing a way longer section of answering questions than normal. Like, some of my episodes are this long, but I wanted to get to each of you because for the past few weeks I haven't talked to you one-on-one in my episodes, and I wanted to do so. But yes, the Pope was gifted a white horse, and I brought up the white horse prophecy in the Mormon LDS crap, and from what I've found, it's all tied together, and we're going to be getting into that. E found this really interesting. Thank you, and so glad you're back. I was fearing you had just disappeared, as so many other iconic programs have in the past, never to be seen again. Regarding the cloud seeding, how awful. I never realized it had become so commonplace in the US and in the UK. I think most people would label it as a conspiracy theory still. Yep, cloud seeding has become the norm. That's what they do. They call you a conspiracy theorist, and then it becomes the norm. Ben, it's great to have you back. I'll be watching more of your content. What's your opinion on Mormonism becoming more global as I see Mormons in the UK? I think it's going to expand. Just like somebody like Candace Owens is promoting Catholicism, I think that there's going to be figures who are going to be promoting Mormonism. And there's more to it, which we're going to be getting into. And I apologize if I'm long-winded this episode, but a lot of what you guys commented on has to do with the research I've done, and it just aligns so perfectly that I had to answer every single one of you. Rose, I'm completely delighted to see you, and I look forward to your independent format. I hope there will be a way to contact you directly. You have no idea how happy I am to see you, dear lady. I just sent a message to Roy, who has also been concerned, and we did not think it was because you were sick. Much, much love, and a ton of hugs, Rose. Oh, thanks, Rose. If any of you ever want to get in touch with me, my Instagram is private. So if you've ever sent me a request on Instagram and it's private, I don't accept everybody unless I can see that you're friends with Iconic or friends with somebody that I know, because I get so many weirdos and so many bots that I just keep it private. Half of the requests I get are bots. So if I wasn't private, I'm thinking like 75% of the followers would be bots, and then I would be even more shadow banned than I already am. So there's a method to my madness. But if you do find me on Instagram, just send me a message, tell me you're a listener on Iconic, and I'll accept you, and then we can stay in touch that way, or through X. I know I'm shadow banned there, so when people search my name, I don't even come up, but it's both Instagram and X are at Kristen with an E _bidding, and you can contact me there. Just let me know you're a listener on Iconic, and I will always answer you. It might not be right away, but I will get back to you. So you do have a way to contact me. It's there if you are on both of those platforms. Also, Lamb had another comment. Great to see you back, NASA, aka not a space agency. Avi is a classic cult deceiver out of Harvard and Israel. Third Eye Atlas. Yep. Should be a good show. Love your perspective. JC, there's also a Project Atlas about to be done at CERN in November. There it goes again. The name Atlas again. Exactly. Anytime you see it show up with these organizations over and over again, to me, it's 10 times more potent than looking into gematria that may or may not exist. Jane, love your show. Thank you, Jane. Christina, how these people sleep at night, I know. And Marilla, lovely. Thank you. Thank you all. I just wanted to answer each of you because it's been a while since I've done that. So I don't even really know how to label this episode, but I'm kind of working on connecting the dots with everything that I've researched over the past year. And sometimes I look at my research and I'm like, maybe I'm stretching. Maybe I'm jumping to conclusions. Maybe my dot connecting is off. And I question a lot of what I do too, even if I think that there's some truth behind it or that there's more to look at. I always do what I do with integrity, but I still question some of the dot connecting that I do, especially when it's stuff that nobody else is talking about. And when it comes to this white horse prophecy and who really runs the world and everything that I'm finding with the Mormons and what David Icke says about the Sabbateans and what people like Rich say about the Kabbalists, and how does this all play out? What does this really look like? Where does this all come from? As you know, I've been saying, I think that this new world, one world religion is going to have elements of Zoroastrianism and Mormonism. After saying that, I like kind of thought to myself, maybe I'm crazy. You know, maybe this dot connecting that I'm doing is just like, I'm stretching and it's it's not really there. Well, as I go deeper and deeper into it, it is there. And I do genuinely believe that I am on to something. If you're newer to the show, I do recommend going back and watching the past few episodes that I've done on this LDS Mormon cult. I also recommend watching the episode that I've done on Luciferianism versus Satanism, because we're going to be getting into a little bit of that too, and how this all ties together. Oh, and there's an episode that I've done called An Ancient Elephant in the Room, I think is the name of it, or The Ancient Elephant in the Room. And that's about the Zoroastrian aspect of all of this, and how this all comes together. When we hear about these ritual abuse cases, we don't hear about them within every religion, though I think every religion has been created to control humanity. There are only a few that consistently have these ritual abuse stories, right? And which groups have these ritual abuse stories? Well, it would be the Catholic Church, it would be the Mormons, and it would be the Freemasons. Okay, so you have 3 groups there, right? As I've gone down this Zoroastrian rabbit hole, I've basically discovered that, a lot of people say the Freemasons are Jews, or some of them are crypto Jews, or some of them are Kabbalists or whatever, or even Sabbateans. And that all might be true to an extent in recent times. But if you go back, historically speaking, they're Zoroastrian. They worship the god Ahura Mazda at the highest levels, which, from my research, I believe Ahura Mazda, they believe it's the one true God, the good God. But I believe Ahura Mazda is Lucifer. So when we hear of them being Luciferian, I think that it goes to this God of light and duality, but goodness at the same time. And you have the Freemasonic aspect of all of that through Zoroastrianism. So all of these occult rituals are taking place within the Mormon Church, the Catholic Church, and Freemasonry. Yes, the other religions have their flaws, they have their blind spots, but you don't really hear a lot of ritual abuse happening within the Protestant churches. You don't really hear about ritual abuse within the Islamic faith. They have their own BS that I certainly don't agree with. But it seems to be that there are these consistent stories. And so when I say that I believe that the New World Order, one world religion is going to be a blend of Zoroastrianism and Mormonism, that actually is lining up to a certain degree, and it has to do with the Ninth Circle. And if you've ever heard of the Ninth Circle, it is basically rituals that are done underground within the Vatican And it references the ninth circle of Dante's Inferno. If you're not familiar with Dante's Inferno, it's a story about the ninth circle of hell, basically, and what the lowest level is like. But the Vatican apparently has a group called the Ninth Circle. And since 1962, all the popes have had to be a part of this ninth circle, in addition to the bishops and archbishops and everything like that. But apparently in 1962, this is what I've found, is that they've enthroned Lucifer as the head of Vatican, and they do ninth circle rituals deep underground the Vatican, and they've been found out. People are catching on to this, right? So for a number of years, basically since the LDS Mormon inception, they've frowned upon the Catholic Church, and the Catholic Church has frowned upon the LDS Church. But since the LDS are part of this ninth circle cult, now they're allowed to be present in Rome, and there's actual proof from 2019, 2020-ish, that the Pope allowed the LDS Church to build a new temple in Rome, because all of these ninth circle rituals are now being found out, so they have to move them elsewhere. So now there's an LDS presence happening in Rome. So there's a guy, his name's Dr. William Schnoebelen, and I've reached out to him for an interview. I've reached out to him like maybe 6 months ago, I think, for an interview. But ironically, I'm covering all of this Mormon, Satan, Freemason stuff, and he was one of the first I heard who was talking about it, because he was part of all of them separately at different points in his life, and then saw how there was some crossover and consistency within all of them. But his podcasts that he's on, they tend to be like the same story over and over again. Well, I came across an interview that he did a few months ago, and that's where I got all of this information when it comes to the LDS Catholic Church and Freemason crossover. And he points out that in Kabbalah, there are the three pillars, and the Qliphoth. The three pillars of the Qliphoth are the Catholic Church, Freemasonry, and the Mormons. And they have to come together for the Qliphothic tree of death to manifest. So when I say that I believe that this New World Order, one world religion, is going to be a blend of Zoroastrianism and Mormonism, his testimony, what he knows, basically lines up with exactly what I've been saying, because if at the highest levels of Freemasonry, they are basically Zoroastrian, which is the first religion. They call it the first monotheistic religion, but it could be polytheistic too. I've gone into all of that. This rabbit hole is so deep. There is truth to that, because for this Qliphoth tree of death to come in, they need the old school Catholic Church to be a part of it. They need the Mormon Church to be a part of it, because that's sort of the New Age religion in a way. And they need the Freemasonic head of the eagle, basically, is how I see it. Because Freemasonry has the oldest knowledge, which we normally associate with Judaism and Kabbalah, But if you date it back, it really does go back to Zoroastrianism. Okay, hopefully all that makes sense. Now, when we hear of these occultists worshiping Satan or Lucifer, I've talked about how I believe they are two completely separate entities. They are not the same. Luciferians are not Satanists and vice versa. But in the occult, both of those figures seem to be looked at as equals, is what I'm finding. Because Freemasons at the highest level, they worship the Zoroastrian god Ahura Mazda, which is looked at as the good god. I believe, just from my research and what I've seen from photos and videos and consistent themes with Enki, the Sumerian Enki, I believe that the god that they worship is Ahura Mazda, who is Lucifer, who is Enki. He's still portrayed as a man. He is portrayed with wings, fallen angel with wings, right? He is also the god of light and fire, but these Freemasons also believe that the bad god is Angra Mainyu, who is Satan, who is Lord Yahweh, possibly Enlil, but equal in power. So this is where, and I hope I'm making sense. This is fucking hard to explain. But I've been doing years of research in this, and I'm like, I think I finally might have figured this out. I'm really trying here, and I'm open to being wrong. But all of these dark occultists see Satan and Lucifer as separate beings, and Lucifer actually being the good one and Satan being the bad one, but they have equal importance because they have to do with awakening and transformation. And that's where I think a lot of these reptilians who run the world, this is where they justify what they do, because they know that in a dualistic world, in order to awaken and to become enlightened, you have to go through a dark night of the soul, basically. And so they see what they're doing as like a means for humanity to awaken. That's basically what I'm finding, is like every time that we get mad at them, like, how could you do this to us? It's like watching an abuser, how could you do this to us? Yeah, it's wrong. They shouldn't do it. And I believe in one way or another, I don't know if I really believe in karma in the afterlife, because if you have the wisdom and the knowledge, you know how to get out of it. But I believe almost in instant karma. And if you are causing another person pain, that the pain that you're causing, it might show up differently in your own life, but it will show up. And I think that that's how they justify what they do. They think that this pain that they cause people on an individual basis and on a collective level is going to transform them in a positive way. I think that that's, we could look at it like, okay, they're using that for control, and they're using that so we stay stuck in the matrix, but I also think that they know how the duality works, and that's how they write off what they do, is between telling you what they're going to do and also knowing how the dual nature of this universe works. That's how they write off what they do. So if you don't believe that the Freemasons worship the Zoroastrian god Ahura Mazda, do a little research, okay? Doesn't take much time. It'll take 5 minutes. If you look into Albert Pike and what he wrote about Ahura Mazda, he wrote a whole book on Ahura Mazda and the secret meaning to the Freemasons, okay? He was very influenced by Zoroastrianism, and the degrees of the Scottish Rite reflect his beliefs. Albert Mackey, who was another Freemason who wrote the Encyclopedia of Freemasonry, said Kabbalah was likely created out of Zoroastrianism. Okay, so we're going through this phase of enlightenment and this awakening, and I say, hey, I think there might be this Zoroastrian theme happening. It's because it's almost like they're allowing us to have this information in a way, if that makes sense. Albert Pike accepted more strongly than Mackey that the Kabbalistic ideas of divine emanations, the Sephiroth, the tree of life, were rooted in older Persian metaphysics, particularly Zoroastrianism. He wrote, the Sephiroth, composing the world of emanations, are the 10 forces and attributes of God by which he manifests himself in the universe. They correspond to the 10 asmaphans of the Zen Avesta, the living attributes of Ormuzd. And in Morals and Dogma, another piece written by Pike, here Pike draws a direct parallel. Kabbalah, the Sephiroth, 10 emanations from the infinite. Zoroastrianism, the Amanishas Spentas, the holy immortals, the divine attributes or emanations of Ahura Mazda. For Pike, this was not coincidence, but evidence of a shared ancient source, a primitive revelation that all systems reflected in symbolic form. So, to make a long story short, one of the most significant influences of Zoroastrianism on Freemasonry is the concept of dualism, this dualistic nature. This is why I think a lot of these controllers of this realm justify what they do from a dark perspective, because they know a dark night of the soul wakes the human up. And Zoroastrianism is a dualistic religion that believes two opposing forces of good and evil, represented by the god Ahura Mazda and the evil spirit Angra Mainyu, are against one another. And I think that this is Enki and Enlil. I think that even the dark occultists have it wrong. I think that they're still worshiping a man god, demigod, God that's not really God, that might be the better of the two. Enki, Lucifer, might be the nicer of the two, the one who gave us knowledge, the one who gave us a body, right? But ultimately, we are still stuck here. So I'm just trying to break this down and understand this. And I hope that you are patient with me while I do so. And I might be wrong about some things, but I'm trying to connect these Mormon, Freemason, Catholic dots. Another concept within Zoroastrianism that shows up in Freemasonry is the concept of the 4 elements, which are fire, water, earth, an heir in astrology, and they are believed to represent the most sacred elements of the universe. Similarly, in Freemasonry, the 4 elements are used as symbols to represent different aspects of the organization's teachings. The use of symbols is one of the most significant similarities between Zoroastrianism and Freemasonry. Both organizations use symbols to represent complex ideas and concepts, and both use symbols to convey moral and ethical teachings. Another notable influence of Zoroastrianism on Freemasonry is the concept of truth. Zoroastrianism emphasizes the importance of truth, honesty, and justice, and these values are also central to Freemasonry. Masonic lodges are known for their strict adherence to ethical and moral standards, and members are expected to be honest and trustworthy. Additionally, the Zoroastrian concept of the soul's journey and the afterlife is reflected in some Masonic teachings. Freemasonry teaches that a person's actions in life determine their fate in the afterlife, and that the pursuit of moral and spiritual enlightenment is essential to a fulfilling life and a positive afterlife. So there's a debate on how heavily influenced Freemasonry is by Zoroastrianism, but I would argue that all the Abrahamic religions and Freemasonry were birthed from Zoroastrianism, and now we have this age of enlightenment and awakening, and there's a Zoroastrian theme happening. And then you take this Mormon aspect that has all of the government money laundering aspects and the Catholic part of it that's doing the same, and then you blend them all together to create this Antichrist system. And yeah, the other religions and philosophies are a part of that, but not in a way where like they're doing dark occult stuff that is actually controlling the world, and they're getting interdimensional information. The interdimensional information, I would argue, is coming from the Freemasons at the highest levels, the Catholics at the highest levels, and the Mormons at the highest levels. So that's the crossover. Hopefully that all made sense. And I love you all, and I'll see you next week.